So I guess the first place to start is like, what was your, was this even on your radar before I was telling everyone to play it, or?
Um, so it's a game that I had heard about before you'd mentioned playing it. It's kind of like in the same vein as like Hollow Knight, I guess, where it's like
Yeah, it's the one of the Metroidvania indie darlings of the recent years.
right, and it's one of those things that I'd like it was something I was aware of. I wouldn't say it was on my radar or something I needed to play, but it's one of those things that I kept hearing about over and over again, like on Reddit and just like YouTube and all the other corners of the internet that like it was good, or it was great actually. Um, but it was just like never anything that I really had actually heard anything about beyond that. Um, like outside of like, hey, Metroid, it's really good Metroidvania, and that's kind of just the extent of my awareness of it until you kind of like started talking a little bit more about
I
it.
barged
And then,
like usual. I barged into our friend group. I was like, "Hey guys, I like these things.
yes, yep, I like these things, and you should like them too.
My taste is
um,
clearly better than you."
yeah, and it's something that like I so when Will of the Wisp came out, it was just like I was like, okay, well, there's a second one. You'd recommended the first one. I was like, well, I should probably check out the first one before I check out the second one. And at that time, that was like right. So I mean, that came out like March of 2020, so like right when the pandemic started, right?
Yep,
I think.
basically.
So at that time, I had purchased a few. I had purchased like the 3 month PC version of Xbox Games Pass,
Hmm.
and Ori and the Blind Forest was on that for free. So I was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm gonna download that and start playing it, and I did. And then I think I got when I was playing it on the PC, I got as far as oh my god, I can't remember it. Um,
Did you get
ooh,
through any of the escape sequences?
I got to the Jinso tree, I think.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Ginso tree,
the Jinso tree.
the most hype escape sequence.
Yep. So I got through. I played through to that point pretty quickly, and then I just like work started picking up, and other things kind of took my interest, and I just like fell off, like totally just fell off playing it.
Yeah, that's exactly what
And
happened to
then,
me with this too. I did that in like 2017. Started it, stopped,
and
then
it's
played the whole
not
thing
it.
later.
It's so bizarre because like that's what the moment that's like that's I was like it's like the first escape sequence, and it's like that's like such a high adrenaline moment that in any other situation it should have like hooked me to keep playing the game, but it just didn't at the time, and it's just because of like all the other shit that was going on. And, especially like right at the beginning of the pandemic, like I was just like force feeding myself just a bunch of different like media and shit. So like between work and all that stuff, it just like got really distracted, totally fell off that. But then, a couple months back, I picked it up on Switch. They had a Nintendo gift card or something
Yeah,
left over, some cash,
I
and
forced
this.
John to buy Hollow Knight and Ori with a gift card I gave him.
I had played through all of the Hollow Knight before, and like different tangential story we can go down, but
Yeah,
Hollow Knight
Hollow
was
Knight is creeping up there. Hollow Knight might be my favorite game ever after I give it another playthrough.
yeah, and I'm excited for the second one. But yeah, so basically, a couple months ago, I picked it back up and then played through it pretty consistently. Um, at the start, well, and that was the nice thing is I guess I buying it on the Switch forced me to start over anyway. So
Hmm.
um, I was not going to be just like outside of the gift or the Ginso tree,
Yep.
Ginso tree.
I called it the Garistro tree for the longest time when I was writing my review, and that's just a demon.
The barista tree. So yeah, so it's like I wasn't gonna just like jump into the game, be outside the tree, and be like, okay, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, forcing the restart was good. But yeah, I cruised through it. I think about
It's a very short game. It's like 8 hours was my first playthrough.
yeah, I think I can't remember how long it took me exactly. I don't have my Switch with me right now, but I was probably like somewhere in the 8 to 10 hour range. And I just I played it pretty consistently over a course of about a week, maybe a week and a half.
Nice.
And after work and all that stuff, and got through it. So, that was my experience in actually managing to get through it.
I mean, did you have a hard time with it? Because people say it's a hard one. I mean, the death counter says so at the end of the game. When you're like, oh look, 400 deaths or something crazy.
I did. I was playing it on the hard difficulty too.
Very nice.
So it's the difficulty is very interesting to me because I think there's obviously just like the parts of being technically good at the game where you like really have mastered the mechanics that so not being up to speed on that is challenging. Failing some of those jumps and landing in spikes, and especially the lava section at the end, I died so much.
I have the most trouble with Sorrow Pass, the all spikes area, right when you get the latch to the wall and launch off of it ability.
Right.
That one gets me for some reason.
Yeah, the instant death. All the instant death is obviously tricky.
Oh, it was instant because of hard mode. If you're not finding all the health, you get insta-shot a lot on hard mode.
Yeah. That health pickups was definitely a hurdle for me. But but I think the to me the interesting thing is that the game kind of allows you to make it as difficult within limitations, as difficult or as easy as you want to, depending on how much you are willing to give up of like your energy to like save and do soul links and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like
using your energy to save and heal at the same time is like usually the go-to.
So you can make it an easier experience if you are more conscious about doing that. I am the type of gamer that I am not conscious of doing that, and it's not out of like necessarily me being like, oh, I've got to conserve this so I can do more charge attacks and things like that. It's just like I just start going, and like by the time I realize it's too late and I should have saved or done something like that, it's too late and I've died.
Yeah, and you're set back behind some jump that you're not ready for.
So my own I don't know what you want to call it, my own bullheadedness made the game harder for me because I was not as careful as it could have been. I could have made the experience at least marginally easier, where I wasn't restarting from such a far distance when I died.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's even for putting it on hard, I think it's probably right about like the perfect challenge level for what it says it is. And like, I mean, like, I said it to hard. It was hard, but not like impossible. It wasn't like beginner Dark Souls hard, right?
Oh, that's the best part of Dark Souls.
Right. No, this is coming from somebody who has begrudgingly come around to loving Dark Souls.
I got you, bitch.
Dude, the first time I played Dark Souls, I was so
you really need like a sacrificial character. Like you run them 9 hours into the game, you're like, okay, now that I've learned all these things, I'm fucking starting over.
Well, I attacked the guy at the first bonfire once you get out of the
Yeah.
asylum, and that just like ruined my game because I kept even when I respawned, he kept trying to kill me. I was like, all right, well, this is just I'm done with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, uh, I think the challenge level is perfect for what it says it is. I could have dropped it down to like an easier difficulty and had an easier time, but like hard was hard was just challenging enough to be rewarding and not. I think it kind of towed the line sometimes, but I didn't ever feel like it went into frustratingly hard territory.
I'm glad it didn't make you rage quit because it's certainly worth it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're as much of a sap as me, but do you want to talk about the story now, or do you want to talk about like mechanics?
We could talk about the story. I will say that I am not a sap. I guess nothing against that, but like I thought the story was very touching, but it was not like quite to the make me cry level.
Yeah. Well, for some reason, just parental sacrifice is just the one thing that can reach into me and just make me.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a lot of like there's a lot of interesting points in the story. I like the parental sacrifice obviously being like the kind of main overarching theme on both ends.
Yeah, it's like this motherly love, parental sacrifice. Like you see it all the way from the very beginning of the game, where Ori's dislodged from the spirit tree as a glowing petal, and comes to rest in the what is it? I used to know all these location names a few weeks back. Naru's kind of section of the woods.
Yeah. Right. What's it called?
I could look at my notes. Let's see.
Swallow's Nest? Is that it?
Yes, it is Swallow's Nest. We get that name in the second game. I couldn't find that name in the first game, but that is the name of the place.
I just looked at I just googled it just to get such
But yeah, so what did that opening cutscene do to you? Because I remember right after I had played this the first time, I tried to show this to John using my laptop hooked up to the TV back when we had the basement.
Yeah.
And it was fucking terrible because my laptop was a piece of shit for playing games. It was like choppy and stuff, and I got him through the intro, and he was like kind of misty-eyed. I'm like, yeah, you want to play this? So what did that opening do to you when you first saw it?
I mean, it's probably like not as interesting of an answer, but like I don't know. It's just like it was sweet, but it wasn't like misty eye sweet for me. It was like I mean, like seeing Naru like go and just take in this little light angel being, whatever Ori is, this little light monster,
little light spirit, kind of forest. I think they're called guardian spirits technically.
Yeah, but so sorry. When you say through the opening, did you get all the way through like? You're talking about like all the way through when Naru dies?
Yeah, so like from the time you hit new game to when you have control, or you have you reincarnate.
Control of Ori, yeah. Okay, yeah, sorry. I was just thinking for like the rescue portion. It is that the rest of that is obviously like very sweet, like watching Ori and Naru like start to build the bridge and like watching them get pick apples and all that together. Like it goes
very
like
Disney.
I think it's very Disney. It's good to see the like it's good to see that bond, and they do a good job of like they're not forcing you to care about. They're not like having to force you to care about it. It's just like it's very small, like little things. Like you just see like these little tiny interactions, but it seems genuine, and it's not like we're shoehorning, you caring into the death of Ori's adoptive mother, like 30 seconds into the game. It's like they do a good job of making it feel like a
like
genuine relationship. Yeah, but they make the relationship seem genuine in a very short amount of time without doing a whole lot, which is really, I think, a testament to the overall storytelling. But yes, again, not to the point of me crying. Now, the idea of so there is a story beat that I want to talk about that I potentially confused on, or I missed something that explained it.
Yes, please. I've been through this like 5 times and, written a summary. So like, yes, we can talk about anything. Hopefully you saw some things I didn't.
So it's the idea of the light, like, and Kuro hating the light, right? Because the light killed her babies, except for one.
Yeah, one stunty little egg. What?
So, like, when it comes to the end, and like, so Kuro hates the light so much and is trying to prevent the light from coming back, and because she thinks it's putting her child at risk, which obviously, like, maybe I missed how that one didn't die, but still alive. But you get to the very end of the game, and it becomes the light is the only way to save the forest, and because of, like, obviously the forest is in the process of burning down, so your kid's gonna kind of die either way unless you use the light to stop the fire. And Kuro makes the parental sacrifice on the other side of the story, and restores the light, sacrifices herself, and the other chick, the last chick, survives. But like, how I don't know. I was just missing the point. I think I missed like how I don't think they explicitly said it, but I'm just missing how that chick survived, and then like
it was still in the egg. It hadn't hatched yet. It was like it was like months late hatching. Well, don't get me started in the timeline, because trying to piece together a precise timeline in this game is really difficult.
Right.
Like, how long do a Titanic owl's eggs take to hatch? Is this one a month behind? Is it? How long did it take for the the trees to stop bearing fruit and the forest to die? Because it makes it sound like it might have been a year or two. Might have been a while. That egg could have been sitting there for a long fucking time. Like, I have not been able to put together a concrete timeline.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the very beginning, when they start like talking about how the forest starts to deteriorate, it does seem like it takes a while, and I think they show that. Obviously, they show that in like Ori and Naru building the bridge.
Yeah, that's like, so, like, everything was hunky-dory then, and then it was after they got to the other side and retrieved the fruit, and then the spirit tree was letting off that gigantic beacon of light, which was the same night that beacon, I think, did in those chiclets.
Okay.
So yeah, as far as I can tell from reading all the dialogue and stuff, the spirit tree and the light are like a symbiotic kind of deal. Like the light's kind of the soul of the tree, and the tree's kind of the body.
Right.
And the two of them combined is necessary for it to, like, instill this kind of order and tranquility and growth over the forest. Kind of your usual hippy-dippy save the forest through like nature magic kind of stuff. and there just seem to be these creatures that are like creatures of basically darkness, which does not necessitate that they're evil, because we see multiple ones that are not. They seem to be the only ones that have a choice, while the creatures of light are kind of good by default. Naru's a dark creature. Gumo, the little spidery guy, is also a dark creature. Gumo's pretty chill. Kuro, the giant owl, is most definitely a creature of darkness. And yeah, they just don't do well in, a forest full of light. They like hide in the shadows and stuff mostly. But they can survive in the light, but apparently not babies.
Yeah, so I guess like the question comes back around to like, I don't know, maybe it was just like some instinctual thing that if like Kuro hates the light for killing her other kids and then is forced to make a decision between restoring the light to stop the fire, or letting it burn, like it seems like she's faced with like assuming that she is not like she has the intelligence of your average owl.
That's a very low bar.
Like,
I think they're smarter than that.
Okay, but like I don't think like she's an animal, I guess, at the end of the day. So it's like I don't know if there's a whole lot of critical thinking skills there, but it seems like you're faced with a decision of using the tool that killed your children to stop the fire from definitely killing your other kid, and hoping that this thing that killed your other kids does not kill the last one you have. So I don't know. It just seems like the hatred towards the light. It just seems like she was faced with a lose-lose situation, from what I would say. And I obviously know like it's a story and there has to be some sort of resolution.
No, I entirely see what you mean. It's all dependent on Kuro and what she knows about the light, and would it bring rains and put out the fire, or something else. So yeah, you're definitely right. I think Kuro is genuinely smart, and in the second game you go to a different forest and there are remnants of owls there, so it's possible that she knew of what the light in that forest had done for like stability and stuff. So there could be some prior knowledge there.
It seems like I guess you could take it. The only way that it like truly makes sense to me is if you take it as like she's taking a very a very risky gamble in her mind for like okay, the fire is 100% gonna kill my kid, and this light will 90% kill my kid, so I'm gonna take the 90% out. That's
a harsh calculation, but I think you're right. Yeah. I hadn't considered that.
The percentages are not necessarily right, but like it's
open up vats, target the child.
Yeah. It just seems it seems like it seems like it only makes sense to me if it was like a gamble and she was thinking that her kid's potentially going to die either way, so let's go with the route that has the highest chance of survival.
Or this route that saves this other mother right in front of me.
Yeah.
Because, we can never know what the real motivation was. Although it was heavily implied by the cutscenes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the moment where it's like she sees like the parallel sacrifice. So I guess she is more intelligent than I gave her credit for, but yeah, it seemed slightly out of character for me, and I guess that's my only way of being able to rationalize it.
Well, yeah, you encounter Kuro, I think, like 6 times in the story, which is such a strong point. Like, you can name the number of characters in this game on one hand, right. And you see Kuro the most, actually. You see her, where's the first one? In the Ginso tree, and then looming over the Valley of Winds, and then hunting for you in the if you go back to the one of the starting areas of the game, that she's hunting for you, and then
yeah, it's
meet her a
always a
lot.
life or death, and it's always a life or death situation.
Oh yeah, I fucking love it.
She will murder you in second.
Yeah, so you definitely get a lot of exposure to Kuro, which is a strong point.
Yeah, and I spent like six times in a short game is quite a bit, and you get like, I think you also like know that you are never going to beat her, which is interesting.
You
like,
drop like a 1-ton rock on her head, and she tanks it. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, and just every other encounter, she's just like immediately murdering you, and there's like no, I at least I felt this way. There's like no point where you're going to hit like. I was like, Ori is obviously never going to be strong enough to fight this owl. Like,
yeah,
so,
and that's a very interesting way to do your antagonist of the whole story. Because it's not the usual way. Usually you're journeying to get strong enough to overcome, and like watching John play it, he certainly tried. He rushed all red upgrades, all power, and he was like a standing sentry turret by the end. He didn't even move when he got into fights. He just stood there and mashed shoot.
That is interesting.
Yeah, and everything died because he was on normal.
But yeah, it is an interesting way to handle the antagonist, because it's like you become it. I think it helps push like the story investment too, because you're like, pretty quickly, I think probably at least by a quarter of the way through the game, that like you are not like Oreo, at least at the very least Oreo alone is never going to be strong enough to like defeat the owl, and not that necessarily like. You also learn pretty quickly that like defeating the owl isn't necessarily even the point of the game. It's obviously like, you're restoring the light to the forest, but the owl's your obstacle to that, and like being a light/nature spirit, like it doesn't seem like killing the owl is going to be the outcome. Like that, you directly killing the owl is going to be the outcome in the first place.
Yeah.
So it gets you pretty invested, because you're like, okay, well, how do you overcome this unbeatable obstacle? When like we know that even if killing it was the goal, like Ori is never going to be strong enough to do that.
Yeah. I never really thought of it that way. I always thought of just running from temple to temple. I took it much more in like a Ocarina of Time kind of format. Like, get to your temples and do, XYZ at the temple. Usually you always go on a side tangent to get some upgrade or key.
Right. It is a little Zelda-y in that fashion. But yeah, I guess I was just always, I was always thinking about like how this is gonna wrap up, because at each point that the game turns, is Kuro is trying to stop you in some fashion. So, and you never actually end up beating her. Like she effectively kills. I mean, she is moments away from killing Ori.
Thoroughly trances Ori.
So yeah, like Ori's a bitch.
Ori's our little bitch.
Kuro has to kill herself to basically save the forest. And I guess that's it all. That is it. Kind of, not to keep going back to the very, very end, but
no, the end is the most impactful part, and we can talk about it as much as you want, because like the end's really evocative and really emotionally evocative.
You don't actually complete the game. Like the goal of the game is not completed by the player; it's completed by the antagonist.
Well, you kind of you had to you set up all the pins. You restored all of the elements that had gone dysfunctional due to the decay. And then, the Kingstone is just dropping, send the light and eyes of the forest back into the body of the spirit tree.
Yeah.
And you just failed to do that, which, could have been a really cool level. Imagine, climbing through the spirit tree. That would have been a fun section. Oh, no.
Yeah. What, you good?
I got stuck on a rock. I'm playing right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And I saved really far back.
It's it does a really, like, yes, the spirit tree could have been like a really cool level, like finding a way to get past Burrow, getting to the spirit tree, finally putting everything together would have been a very cool, and it could have been a very triumphant moment. But like, I think failing at that does a lot more for the game too. Though it's like, yes, the game does not overstay its welcome at any point to me, and I think like, I think like you get to the very end, and there's like, they could have made it go on and do that extra level, but it's like, it just felt like a right time to start to just pull everything together, and they found a way to get to that end in a more narratively satisfying way, I guess.
I think you're absolutely right, because the second game does have a minor pacing issue, because you basically go to 4 temples, and they're bigger and longer, and it drags a little bit at the very end.
Is it worth playing?
It's absolutely worth playing. Mechanically, it's better. It has more challenge to it. I just don't like that you don't get a strong antagonist like Kuro in the game. You don't get one that's popping up over and over and reinstating itself as the primary threat and problem of the game. You get, like, there's a wolf in these parts of the woods. There's, this thing in this underground cave, and it's not focused the same way. That's what really was like the core problem I had with it. Because like, Blind Forest is like a nice, tight, little tiny package. A really brief game with a really strong character focus on the antagonist, and a resolution that ties everything up really well.
Yeah. Yeah. While we're on that subject, you mentioned mechanics being better in Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah, so it's it's tighter because it's so it controls better. Like, if you notice, Ori's kind of a little not excessively fluid in this game. It's pretty good, and if I hadn't played the second game, I wouldn't be complaining about it. I would think Ori controls just fine, but after playing the second one, there's like a certain flow and momentum that they add that makes controlling Ori feel better.
Yeah.
Being able to fight, while it does change what Ori is from, this little light spirit that, at most you can fight your enemy with their own tools, or stomp on them, I guess. Eventually you're the one, wielding, blades of light and shooting arrows.
Okay.
And it's really good. It's challenging. The fights are actually fun, because like, in this game, what are your fights? You fight one of these slugs, or mortar. I think it's called like a mortar slug or something. And it comes out of the ground and spits. And sometimes they jump and do flips. And that's it. That's like as extensive as your fighting gets.
That's what I was gonna so in Will-O-Wisp, it sounds like there's like Ori actually has direct combat abilities.
Yes,
what you're saying, is that right?
You get 3 mappable buttons, and you get to choose your currently equipped abilities. and your energy fuels most of them except for a few that are free but really weak. And so it's left up to you. You can like make challenge runs out of it. You can, tell yourself, I'm only going to use, the big fucking hammer because you miss with it most of the time. Or, you there's a lot more replayability for mechanically. You replay this game for achievements and the story.
Yeah, I was gonna say like to make I think Ori moves like nothing against how Ori controls by any means, but I think like there is some mechanic stuff that left room for improvement in this one. I really like the bash mechanic.
Bash is
I think that one
the quintessential mechanic. It's what puts this game on the map.
Right, I do like I like moving around and doing the escape sequences with bash, and like it's sort of like bullet time-esque when you have that moment to figure out where you're trying to move yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that stuff, and the redirecting enemy projectiles, but like the rest of it is some, not that there's anything wrong with it, but the rest of it some run-of-the-mill mechanics like the wall jump and things like that. The thing that I didn't particularly love about the game was the general combat, though. Like was it Shine?
The explosion?
A Sign.
Sen? Yeah.
Sen.
Sen.
Sen being the one that like shoots the little balls.
Yeah,
and like,
you basically run evasion while Sen goes pew pew in a select range.
And so and it doesn't necessarily.
It's like evasive, passive combat, kinda.
Right. And it's not like Ori's not doing the fighting, and that bothers me. It's more of just like how that fighting works, where you're just like running around and then I'm just button mashing, to get those hits off, and like I don't actually have really any control over that, except for just getting myself in range. And then
you'll definitely enjoy the second game then.
I just pressed the button. The combat just felt a little uninvolved. You have to be aware of your surroundings and how the enemies are attacking, obviously, and like I did not tank myself into red upgrades like John did, so I couldn't just stand still and.
Yeah, you really can't on hard mode. What did you end up doing? Because I almost always end up running. Let me just make a point and say I almost always end up running blue overwhelmingly. Which is more healing, more more energy, and eventually more movement.
I don't remember exactly how it broke out, but I felt like I was pretty balanced across all three paths.
Okay.
And there was just stuff I wanted on all of them.
Did you go for like completion, or did you just find what you found on the way and called it good?
I found what I found on the way and called it good. I went there's some times where I went out of my way to grind stuff and try to find more ability cells so I can get upgrades that I felt that I needed, but I was not hunting for completion. I was just trying to get through the game.
Okay, because he did 100% or tried to 100% the game, so he was maxed out on everything.
Of course he did.
He's
a little completionist junior.
Oh. I actually watched a completionist video the other day, and it was not the shit I remembered. It was decent. I was surprised.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of it. I don't watch a lot of his stuff, but he truly 100% stuff.
Yeah, he kind of fell into like the Angry Joe tier for me, where it was like, oh, he's been doing the same shtick for years, and I'm actively bored of it now. Yeah. And then I went to watch his Will of the Wisps video, and it was like a mini review, and then a gripe or two about some of the more difficult achievements, and that was it. And I was like, that was really refreshing.
I do like that. I don't know if this is 100% the reason, but he's gotten to the point where it just feels like some games are fucking with him, like the Breath of the Wild stuff. like Nintendo put in the 900 Korok seeds because you need it to get like the full completion thing, but like you just get you would get a literal turd for doing it.
There certainly have always been fuck you mechanic or achievements, but they might be more frequent now.
Yeah. But yeah, I got like enough in each tier that I felt like I had balance, I guess, but yeah, just like the combat just was not engaging. I didn't enjoy just basically like entering a certain range of an enemy and button mashing until it died, and then just trying to stay away from its attacks. It just like it wasn't like bad, but it could have been better.
Yeah, it's like what, cat, chill.
But I guess combat's not really the point of the game.
Trying to crawl into my lap. Yeah, definitely not. The it's really interesting looking at some of like the early footage and like pre-alpha models and stuff, and it looks like it was never really planned to have proper combat. They were always kind of on the bash mechanic. Seemed to be like a core design feature for them from the very beginning.
Right. You can do a lot with the bash mechanic.
Bash is stellar. Like, other than the little bit of downtime you need between bashes, you can be invincible in this game. If you're good enough, you can go untouched. Entirely untouched. The entire time, yeah. So, like, the skill ceiling is as high as you can go.
Yeah, definitely didn't get that good. But yeah, I the bash, I guess that kind of is what makes the normal combat so disappointing, is just like how well the bash fits in with the rest of the movement and the rest of the game. That's just like when you resort to using Sen to shoot little fireballs at people, then it's just like, okay, well now I feel like it took me out of the flow for those times, and that was like the really only thing that prevented me.
I'm literally fighting a mortar slug right now, and I just take 2 steps left, shoot it, take 3 more steps, shoot it again, because I've got nothing to throw back or hit it with.
I would say like the story driving the game makes it a 10. Like the story at least is a 10 for me in terms of like my enjoyment. But like, and it's not even like that. It's not even like it's that complicated of a story. It's a pretty simple story, but it's got some good emotional beats, and they do a lot of good visual storytelling.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah, and so like I think the story 10, maybe a 9, maybe a high 9, but the gameplay is kind of like, with that combat kind of pulling me out of things from time to time. I would say the gameplay is maybe like an 8 overall for me.
Those are some very high scores for as much complaining as we've been doing.
I don't feel like the combat thing is like the Sen fireball thing is like my only gripe with the game.
Yeah, auto aiming, like, you don't have to do anything but avoid. Yeah. And then the other mechanics start filling some of those holes. Like, you can start bashing things. Like, I like getting things into bash stomp combos, basically, where you bash it straight down, and then you smash down on top of it, and then you just do that over and over till it dies.
Yeah.
So you eventually can make combat more engaging, but yeah, for the early game, it's not really there.
Right. But it's also like like I said, it's not enough to take away from my overall enjoyment of the experience of the game. Because like I was still motivated to keep going. It was never like distracting enough that I was like, okay, well I need a break, or okay, I'm like, I'm no longer invested in this. It was just like momentarily like, okay, well, like I've been distracted from the experience a little bit, but like you get past those moments pretty quickly.
So, what was your thoughts of the various temples you have to go through, or kind of dungeons? Because once you start getting these mechanics and they all build on each other, so of course the Ginso tree is the first one.
Yeah.
Which is 10 out of 10. Peak of the game, I would say, as far as dungeons go. Any real thoughts on those? I find that my least favorite part is probably anytime you have to pick up and carry something.
Yeah, picking up and carrying things was a huge pain in the butt.
Because you're like, everything in this game is movement based, and then it's like, oh, movement? We're gonna take a break.
Yeah, that's true. Like it was a pain in the butt. And there's a couple moments where it's like, there's a couple moments when like, God, why can't I remember the name of this location? I need to pull it up.
Which one? What's it? Icy?
The one, the is it the Valley of Sorrows? I can't remember. Whatever the location is, like covered in the mist, and you keep like the paths keep twisting when you go different directions.
The Misty Woods.
The Misty Woods. Okay, that was probably easier than I made it. When you get that like
the cling.
What is it? The yeah, when you're like bringing that back to the beginning.
Yes.
Like
the section where you have all the projectiles coming at you and you have to jump over them, and you have specific spots with headroom to jump.
Right. So I actually did enjoy that part more than I enjoyed the other carrying parts, because like I don't know, the challenge felt a little bit more warranted there. But
yeah,
when I got it back to the very beginning, like I don't know if I was just being stupid or whatever, but it's like I could not for the life of me get Ori to put it.
That's always a problem. If you're standing on the wrong side of the pedestal, you can't put it down. If you push the wrong button, you drop it on the ground instead of putting it in the plinth.
Yeah,
that's always a problem.
No, that was not a me problem, because that probably took me like no joke 5 minutes to get it down there.
Yeah, that's not uncommon.
But yeah, I mean, like, they are sort of Zelda-esque, I guess. You mentioned Ocarina of Time.
Well, I mean, that's like one of the last ones I played. Are
you serious?
Dude, I don't pick up Zelda games very much anymore. I guess I've had the no pants run of Breath of the Wild on and off for a while now.
I guess that's fair. They're a little Zelda-esque. I think that's...
There's no problem with it.
Yeah, no, there's not a problem with it. So I think it makes a lot of sense in the context of the story. I will say I don't think that there's no problem with it. I didn't really feel like it was like necessarily anything special.
Like the storyline, like Forest is in trouble, you have to save it.
Yeah, no. Just like the concept of the temples, I guess. Like it works with the story. But like to me, I guess there wasn't anything particularly like special about them. Like I think the escape sequences and like building to that is nice, but like they were neat little plot devices to me.
Okay. And I mean, most of the escape sequences like actually use things you got, and then there's the fucking icy hot temple. where it's like
Icy Hut.
yeah, the Icy Hut Temple, where you carry around the orb with gravity bending properties.
Oh,
And
okay. I actually really liked that.
you did.
I
Interesting.
totally forgot. I totally forgot about that because it was just so.
Mind bending.
Uh, it was so different from the rest of the game. Like the like playing with gravity and all that stuff. It was just like
Certainly is
the rest
special. Yeah.
not that the rest of the game is like necessarily straightforward with physics or anything like that, but like the I don't know, it's just like playing with it reminded me of
Portal or
not really Portal, but I don't know. There was something like I was. Oh, it'll come to me. I can't remember. I feel like it was like some Flash game or
Fez.
something.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Um, but just like kind of jumping around the corner of the block and using the gravity to like swing you somewhere else.
Mario Galaxy.
Yes, yes. Ah, that's it. It was Mario. There was yeah, it was a little bit Mario Galaxy-esque.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's wrong. I always loved doing long jumps on the smallest planets you could find.
Right, and
Just go
like, using it to kind of like
no, just going
gotta
around it a bunch of times.
yeah, no, that is exactly it, Mario Galaxy, because like you could there was like levels where you had like kind of blocked platforms that you could like walk all the way around, but if you jumped on an edge, the gravity wouldn't like quite correct itself.
Man, that was such a good game.
Yeah.
You just sail off into the distance.
Yep. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that little sequence. But I can definitely see where it would not have been fun for people.
Yeah, you've seen me play Dark Souls. You know, I like a go fast. So every time I have to pick up and wait for like platforms to move. Like, did you find Blackroot Burrow?
I don't think I did.
Okay, it's a pitch black area, and you have to carry around a light as your you have to carry around your own light, and it also makes invisible platforms tangible. It's very visually striking, but you have to wait for like rotations of platforms to move past to get on them, and that slows you down a lot. And that would be I just don't like waiting. And then the abilities you get, of course, you know, Bash is everyone's favorite. Anything else you really liked, like the God, what is that? I'm trying not to mix up abilities from the second game. I guess the list is pretty short. The triple jump is very useful if you follow that upgrade path and you get up to a triple jump.
I don't think I quite got there.
It's pretty useful. How did that windy, icy escape sequence treat you? Because that one feels like some bullshit, and lots of people complain about it. John complained about it a ton because it feels like trial and error, kinda.
I didn't have a problem with it.
Really?
I think that one didn't.
That's really interesting.
Yeah,
Well, you are the MLG pro gamer of our group, so
that I don't know if that's entirely true, but I there's probably other things that I got screwed over on that I shouldn't have, but like that one didn't stick out as particularly challenging to me. I think I got through it maybe on like the second or third try.
that's really impressive. It's the problem is like you can't control your speed. You can either fall or rise at the rate of the wind, and that often leads you get stuck in the path of a geyser or something.
Right.
And just the random falling icicles. and then right at the very end, there's a rock that will one-shot you if you don't get out of the way, and send you all the way back. So
Yeah,
people complain about that one a lot.
yeah. The very last piece of it. Um, that okay. Yeah, I remember. I made it to the very end. Um, the very end sequence, like on the first try, and then that last sequence was where I kept dying. But I think I still got through it like within 2 or 3 tries. It
It's
was
really
a pain in
good.
the ass though. Like that, not a pain in the ass. It was like a that was like okay, like that feels like it was a little bit uh like it didn't really feel like there was a lot of I don't know.
Skill. Mm,
Like I mean, you can kind of like you can you can sit there and wait for the rocks to start falling a little bit, and then you can kind of navigate a path up through that. But it like if you're just going and like with if you're going and it kind of is like guiding you to just go like the rest of the escape sequences, then you like are just gonna immediately die. It's like the one is it's you have to be a little bit more patient, which is like counterintuitive with the rest of the escape sequences up to that point.
reward you for fast.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that. Eventually it does cave in if you go too slow and you
Right.
fail anyway. But it definitely is one of the weirder ones where you can't go all out, but you can't go slow either because you're being pushed from behind. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's my least favorite escape sequence. Ginso Tree being the favorite because the combination of the music and just the simplicity of bash all the way up and out.
Um, here's what I'll say. I didn't have a much problem with the ice one. I
Yeah.
died quite a bit trying to get out of the Gitso tree.
It's so good though. So
It is, but
what
I
gave
died a
you
lot.
trouble? So the button mapping is also a problem in this. The bash being on triangle is some stupid bullshit. Because in the next game they remap bash by default to left bumper, which gives you so much more control because you can keep jumping with your thumb and then use your bumper to bash off of things rather than having to move your thumb across your D-pad or your buttons there.
That seems nice.
It is, and because in this game you didn't find it if you didn't find Blackroot Burrow, but the left bumper is used to throw light grenades, which are pretty useless in totality. And so I've considered remapping just to play this, remapping bash to bumper.
Um, yeah, the mapping is an issue. I don't like. I guess I don't know if it was just like general inexperience at that point in the game, and I would have had a better time going back to it and trying it again. But it's just like
Oh,
there's a
you
couple.
can certainly go play again because it'll be like a 6 hour deal.
There's a couple. Yeah, there's just a couple points in the tree where it's like I felt like I wasn't quite getting the bash in the right spot. Like I wasn't quite making it high enough to get to the next point, and I just kept getting like killed by the water.
Hmm.
And that sequence. Let's see. I don't know how many times I died, but I would say it probably took me. That one probably took me upwards of 10 tries to get through. Whereas the ice one was probably like 3. So
Interesting. It's really interesting
yeah,
where we struggled differently.
yeah. I don't know. It's a little strange, but
And then from there, of course, so talked about the Ginso tree. Did you like the teleporting puzzles? Because they were kind of mind bending for me. Like, what direction to hold when you come out of a different portal is a real struggle for me.
uh, yeah. Let's see. What my one of my one of my I did like that overall. Um, I think that was kind of creative. One of my favorite parts of that was getting the spider to shoot its projectile through one of the portals,
Yeah, you found
and
that
then
one?
using that as leverage to get through that section a little bit faster.
Yeah, beautiful, perfect. Yeah, it's such a good kind of temple. Keeps it real simple. And then, what were your thoughts on Mount Horu with the 9 or the 8 trials of mini challenges and bullshit, depending on how good you were at that point? How did that treat you on hard? Because I remember when I did my last playthrough, it was on hard, and I remember the lava did obscene amounts of damage.
Yeah, it was not a super great. That part was like very tricky, like because you couldn't like stand on
The hot ground, yeah.
you could stand on the ground because you die, so you had to. So there was a lot of bashing and staying in the air, which that part I didn't mind.
No, it's
There's a
fun.
couple.
You're bashing.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple challenges that were, um, there was a couple challenges. There was one in particular that I was just like, uh, it was where you have to let's see what room was it in.
Was it the alternating platform one, the circular laser, the mini escape sequence, the kill all the elementals in the room? Which
It was
one?
the kill all the elementals one. I couldn't remember
Yeah,
what
because
they're called.
you're killing your mobility basically in a room where you can't touch anything.
Right, and then and I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't really recall another sequence in the game that completion was tied to wiping the room of enemies.
Other than the ones you get locked into and you're forced to
Right.
kill everything to get out. Yeah, there's nowhere else where you kill everything.
So when I was looking for solutions to the puzzle, killing all of the elementals was not the one that came to mind. Sorry, I should say it was the first thing that came to mind, and I immediately was just like, no, they've never made me do that before, so I must be missing something. And I left that one I went to that one a couple times. I couldn't figure out how to get it finished. I left and I came back to that one last, and I was like stumped, and I just on a whim I was like, okay, well I'm just gonna kill everything and see what happens. And when that was the solution to the puzzle, I was like, I can't believe this, because like I don't think there was another point in the game where that was ever a solution to anything.
Yeah.
And not saying that it needs to have been there prior, but it feels like all the rest of the challenges kind of like fed off of similar things that have been done before, or like you understand how X mechanic works, and so I was just like, I wasn't thinking that clearing the room of enemies was going to be the actual solution.
It's funny because that one, I think I got immediately.
It felt like too obvious of a solution, and it just was like, I was like, well, they've never done that, so that wouldn't be it. And then I didn't try it, so I guess I kind of screwed myself by just not trying it at the very beginning.
Yeah, you can be real slick and do it all in one go
Yeah.
and land like at the very top and be done with it. It's really fun to revisit now that you know it.
Yeah.
And then you have your pointless little final fight with a bunch of slugs. That's the final fight of the game.
Yeah.
Is a bunch of slugs, and then nothing at all happens.
And then a sort of escape sequence where you're very fucked up.
Oh, you did. I was joking because, like, technically, yeah, the room where there's like 6 slugs in the walls and one doing jump and loop loops is technically the final fight of the game,
But
because it's the last thing you can fight in the game.
it's the last thing you kill before the game wraps up.
Yeah. But yeah, that final escape sequence, you restore the element of warmth that goes from this, like, smoky, raging inferno to, minty cool and blue. So what were you thinking at the end of that? Did you expect Kuro to come out of, left field and be like, here we are at the end? Or were you, did you expect the game to let you go, like, onto another temple or something?
I was expecting to be able to, like, that we would wrap it up ourselves at the spirit tree. I expected Kuro to make an appearance at some point along the way. I did not expect it to be like that we were just at the end, so it almost felt a little abrupt, but like it almost felt a little abrupt, but once like that whole thing plays out the way it does, like you almost get killed, then the Kuro sacrificed herself and all that stuff, it felt appropriate. Like the timing felt good once it was over. But when in the moment of it, I was just like, oh shit, it's like done.
Yeah, it really comes slamming to an end there, because sorry, I just got Bash and I'm loving it. Yeah, Kuro comes slamming down, interrupting you, and suddenly you're running, and everything's on fucking fire. And did you notice that in the background you can actually see the fire spreading to the rest of the forest as you go through the escape sequence?
Yeah, I did notice that.
Oh, you did? I didn't notice that until my most recent, like, for the review playthrough.
Oh. Yeah, no, I think they did a lot of. There's a lot of like, the environments are. There's a lot of care put into the. It doesn't just look good, but there's a lot of like care put into the detailing.
Oh yeah, and there's a whole bunch of Easter eggs too, which I went looking for when I was writing the review because I was reading the wiki, and there's like like A and J and a heart because some of the developers got married during the process of making the game, and there's a chance an Imperial Star Destroyer can be seen when you go to the top of the the really sunny mountain. There's a really small chance that there'll be an Imperial Star Destroyer in the background.
Interesting. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, and there's a specific frog that if you throw it off a cliff with Bash, it will do a Wilhelm scream, and like there's so many little endearing details that I found as I went through this. And like I think there are no reused assets other than like enemies and stuff. I think everything is basically original. It's not hand drawn, but they did it for a hand drawn aesthetic. And would you believe that this was all done basically remotely? There is no studio for Blue Moon Studio. It's basically just a bunch of people across the world, really interestingly.
Interesting.
Because I would call this, like, the team that built this a bit too big to be, like, an indie team, but, they don't have a location, so what are you supposed to call them?
That's a good, I mean, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, you do your Mount Haru escape sequence. Did you have any luck with it? I got it like my third or fourth try, and I had to... Actually, someone in the Twitch chat had to point out at the very end that you could bash off the little falling rocks, otherwise I would have never finished it probably.
Yeah, I think I probably got through that one in maybe like 5 or 6 goes.
Oh, and you did it without the dash power up, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh man. So the dash power up was added in the Definitive Edition DLC, and it's just a dead straight line. Ori sprints like basically like a third of your screen. And you can do it on the ground over and over and over and over. And then if you follow the blue upgrade path, you can do it in the air once every time you leave the ground. And so that lets you just pew, pew, pew across the map for that escape sequence. So I've never done it without dash.
Interesting. I think I did it without dash. I don't know.
If you never found Blackroot Burrow, then you certainly did.
Oh.
Because the original game you could do it without dash, but dash is just like a convenience.
Okay. Then I did it without dash. Yeah, so I guess speaking of things that like it might have taken you a little bit too long to figure out, that chase sequence or the sequence where Koru is hunting you in is at the bottom of the...
Right after the icy escape sequence?
Yeah.
So right after you leave the nest. Oh, we didn't even talk about the nest. So yeah, you do your icy hot temple there, and then you get into the nest and you see the unhatched egg. And at that point, you get a cutscene for it, and do you remember the cutscene? It's where we see that the light killed all the children and stuff.
That's when you figure out, like, oh, Horror's not
Are we the baddies?
Monster. Yeah.
Is our existence, bad for creatures here?
Well, that's an interesting thing to talk about too, because it's like I again, maybe this is me not like totally connecting on something, but the light being needed to like keep the forest balanced, but like I guess it was like a surge that killed the kids, but so like I guess we don't really know exactly what that was, but
it was the forest going, "Hey Ori, where'd you go?" That's what it fucking was.
Yeah, but like but why does the light existing
too much?
Like the light balances the force, keeps things in check. So why does it existing cause harm for Kuro and her kids?
Yeah, it just seemed
she's a part of the ecosystem.
There's just some dark creatures that the light doesn't vibe with.
Yes, but she doesn't seem like a particularly dark creature. She's just like especially
when she's not in a murderous rampage.
Right. She's just like, she's got kids, she's trying to take care of them. She's
single mom.
Chilling. She's single mom.
Single mom in like a evil villain lair.
Kids. Yeah. So yeah, maybe that's just like, maybe I'm just not, I didn't connect all the pieces together there. But yeah, like you figure out that she's just not a complete psycho monster, and she's just mad about her babies.
It's really endearing. It's kind of like the I don't know if you kind of had this revelation, like in my early days of watching anime. I could not get over how much I liked the villains, because we actually got like backstories and sympathies for villains versus like your Saturday morning cartoons where they're basically disposable.
Yeah.
Did you have that experience when you first started watching like no, you were a sucker for Naruto and stuff, and like you actually get backstories for all these antagonists, and it feels like it raises the stakes when you know more.
Right. There's like more concrete motivation, or like, here's why this person is the way they are, as opposed to just being like evil for the sake of being evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Western cartoons are just, maybe a little bit too formulaic in that aspect, but it's just like that is just that should just be a part of good storytelling in general.
Yeah.
And like you get that, like you see that in pop culture today. Like why do people love Infinity War so much? It's because you see the ultimate, you see the motivations for this like intergalactic genocidal maniac, and you kind of like him. Like you can kind of see why he's doing it to a certain degree.
I could get behind a
like,
big, strong man like that.
Yeah, you're like, oh, you're like, I mean, you're wrong and you're a monster, but like, I kind of get it.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah.
Like that fucking owl. Yeah. I also really like the look they gave Kuro. Because I don't think it doesn't really harken to any particular type of owl, but it makes it look like really kind of cruel, with kind of like the scraggly dark feathers.
Right.
Like what you would expect on a large creature. You know, you can't preen and look perfect like a songbird when you're that size.
Right, and then there's also it, like, aside from it being a creature of darkness, right? Like it feels like you never get like a really, like, you see Kuro, but it's like you don't see like a full, like, it feels like she's always in the dark, which is, you know, I think part of it, but it's not like you see like this fully detailed owl ever. It's kind of just like this shadowy menace, even when it's up close. So
you don't want to see it completely. So in my time looking at like all the background stuff, I did watch like not a TED Talk, but like a presentation at a game expo of the models and stuff. And so they're all fully rendered 3D models. And so the positions they put them in to make it look good on a 2D plane are horrendous sometimes. Like, like folded in half with like the wings splayed out what directions that they would not be able to go, and they're like, it looks like this from the side, but from the front it's like the that dive bomb off the Ginso tree, which is my favorite shot in the entire game, which is Kuro diving as Ori's just plummeting off the tree, and then from the side Kuro's neck is like up and broken, and the wings are splayed out, and every single feather has a different vector to it, and it's like, ooh, that's a not look.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I think I just derailed us. So oh god, where were we?
We were everywhere. We were all over the place.
Yeah, that's good. Then you wrap up the end of the game with, you know, Naru having been resurrected by some magical techno something that Gumo did, because his people were like a bunch of engineer kind of magic engineers.
Yeah.
With Revivify.
Gumo being the sleeper hero of the stories was really nice.
He really is. He's so sad too, because everyone's dead.
Yeah, he's misguided and alone.
It's just a motley crew of orphans over here.
Yeah. It's nice to wrap things up with Naru being revived, and it does give us that nice moment of her trying to protect Ori at the end.
Yeah, like when face down with this like titanic owl, and she, like, because I've watched it so many times, writing up my summary and stuff, and she does like warily look at Kuro, but she almost constantly is looking back at Ori the whole time. Like if you look at the little micro movements of her eyes and her head, and it's so sweet, because even when faced with this gigantic like threat that nothing in this forest could deal with, I don't think anything in the forest could deal with Kuro if it came down to it. I know, she just walks straight up there to her little precious little baby.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so I enjoy that story moment. Um, I guess this is a question for you. Do you feel like that was the right move? Even so it works in the story, but do you feel like bringing Naru back was the right move, or is it more impactful if she stays dead?
Man, I've never thought of it. Is it more impactful if she stayed dead and you saved this forest and it was left barren?
So, so the hitch in that is that you don't is that that moment with Kuro and Naru at the end never happens.
Yeah, it doesn't facilitate the sacrifice of Kuro.
Right, right. So that leaves a big it leaves a big kind of vacuum in how you resolve that if they did not bring her back, but like I guess she is ready to make the sacrifice play again, even having just come back from death, you know. I don't know. It like it's one thing that I thought about because like
it's a really good question, but it would fundamentally change how the story would have to resolve. So I don't know if I don't know how to consider it.
Right.
Because that's not that's not like changing your weapons or something. That's fundamental to the story.
It was something where like when Gumo resurrected Naru, I was like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on here? But then I quickly like any kind of doubt I had or anything in my mind was like, okay, I don't really know where this is going. Like, they quickly like resolve any conflict that brings by having that moment with Kuro, and then subsequently resolving the entire game based off of that moment.
Well, yeah. So like all we're told is she just wants to see her child, and right. Yeah, and you see them travel to the volcano.
Yeah. Yeah, so it works. It definitely works. It's just it was like there was just like a moment right when it happens, right when they bring her back, where I was like, where is this going? What are we doing here? Mm-hmm. But yeah, just my general thought. I guess I don't really have a good answer either, but if they had a way to it's too many what ifs. I don't really want to go down that path.
Yeah, I'm not a story writer.
No.
Just a couple idiots. Very interesting though. I hadn't thought of it at all. I had basically just been looking at the various threats that everyone in the story had faced.
Why isn't Gumo resurrecting the owl babies?
He's only got one orb. He's got to make it count. Yeah, that's. I mean, he had no idea they were up there. He doesn't know anything about the story, and he wanted to help Ori because Ori, despite him trying to fuck over and kill Ori for, a good segment of the game, through his little burrow. Despite trying to kill Ori for all that time and dumping Ori off that bridge into that fucking hole.
Yeah.
Ori still is just this childish little naive ball of goodness that saves him when he's pinned by that rock. And so I think he was trying to repay that.
Yeah. Oh. Well, he was misguided. He was corrupted. He was not actually bad.
Yeah. He's a sweet little boy. The real hero.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and then everything's hunky-dory at the end, and you get, a really nice music piece. I really do love the because they really could have just turned everything into like a symphonic and orchestral thing, but like they take a few moments in the game at the soundtrack and it's just humming. It's just like this really soft kind of humming and maybe a little bit of woodwinds. Because soundtrack and visuals are definitely 10 out of 10 in this game also.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts on the music?
The music isn't as fresh in my head as I would like it to be to actually have a conversation around it, but I like what I remember of it. It was I think that like especially in the big moments it's very good. Like
Yeah, like the Ginso tree has that looping track, so like no matter how many times you die, it just keeps going and you keep running. That's definitely one of the really strong ones. Just you'll notice if you go back and you know Ori's theme, kind of da, 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 da. That makes an appearance in a lot of the songs in really minor ways. And they do quite a good job in the second one, incorporating that at a few key spots. Yeah, the music is stellar, and I would certainly recommend listening to it. It can make me cry if I listen to it.
You know what, Matt? I'm glad that this game has touched you so much emotionally.
It touched me, yep, and there's Kuro hunting me again. Yeah, dude, it was really emotionally evocative, and that's why it stuck with me so hard, because, I played it the first time to completion because there was a reviewer, he did movies and video games, and he, eventually left the internet for his own mental health, and I kind of wanted to do it for him, because he was one of my favorite movie reviewers.
Who was it?
It was this fucking furry. He went by the Dishonored Wolf for a while. He was like kind of your rage, let's find a stupid thing to review. But then when he like actually would seriously review something, it's really good because he was also trying to be an author. He kind of reminded me of Joe a little bit. Joe, if he was a creative, I guess. Just kind of a sad guy that gets really passionate and angry sometimes.
Interesting.
You can still find some of his videos out there, but most of them have been yeeted. And I kind of wanted to do it for him, and I wrapped it up. Oh no, that was the third time. Okay, I think I played it on his recommendation initially, and I bawled my eyes out on stream. It's great. I have it on video.
There you go.
I played it the second time because I wanted to feel it again, like an addict. I played it the third time in preparation for the sequel, so it would be fresh in my head. And then I played it the fourth time for footage capture for the review. And that's the 4 times I played it.
There you go. Yeah, I should play it again. It's definitely worth the playthrough at least once.
Especially because it goes on sale for $5 like a few times a year.
Yeah.
I would strongly recommend the second one though. Sounds like you would like it a lot. It was just the lack of a strong antagonist like Kuro and the presence of a ton of NPCs. Because like the forest is pretty fucking dead, isn't it? Like there's enemies, there's there's Kuro, Naru, Gumo, Ori, Sen, the spirit tree, and nothing else. Like it's dead, it's hostile, there's no friendly faces, and And for me, the addition of a bunch of NPCs and like how lively they make the forest in the second one, even though it's another decaying forest that has been bereft of its light for longer, changed the tone for me a lot.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't have anything. Obviously, I haven't played the second one, so I don't have that kind of comparison. But now that you mention it,
I hope I didn't prime you to have discontents with it, because it still is excellent. Like when I think about going and playing, or I'm thinking about playing the second one because I can do a challenge run, or I can ask myself, hey, can I go and get the there's an upgrade that makes everything stronger, but it makes them drop more XP/souls.
No, I guess I just didn't think about
the state of the forest.
No, I thought about the state of the forest. More of like, I think because you have Sen with you the entire time, so it doesn't necessarily made me actively think about it, but like how truly alone you are in the forest. I don't think actually registered with me until like just now.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely alone. I never put those words to it, but truly alone is a great way to describe it, because there is literally not a friendly face in the forest.
Yep. Until the very, very end.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Guma would be our one friendly face, but he's kind of operating in the background. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. You're truly alone in this one. The other one, you're not. Like, you literally go from one room to another, and there's an NPC that's like, "Can you go get a thing for me? I can't. I dropped it."
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really think about that. I think just like having the kind of Navi type companion didn't make me focus on it, but you really just don't have anybody else with you.
You're just a sad, scared orphan.
Sad, scared little boy.
Yeah, so it was what nagged at the back of my head was just the it was the less satisfied feeling at the end of the story. That's what did it for me. And I'm not going to give any more away than that, but I see a lot of people saying the end of the sequel made them cry even harder. I got kind of upset at the ending. And that's all I'm going to say, because I will not rob you of that, because it's still good.
That's fine. Definitely, obviously the story is important, but like solid gameplay will.
Oh yeah, the gameplay
keep my attention.
So good. It does take a while though. Like where this is an 8-hour game on your first playthrough, that one was like 20. Because it stretches a bit more.
Yeah, interesting. I'll definitely play it. Eventually, it's on my list.
God, my list is I gave up on the list. I just have different Steam categories, and one of them says play next, and I just keep adding games to it, and then ignoring them anyway.
Then going back to Dark Souls.
Hey, yeah, no, I'm doing Dark Souls 3 co-op right now.
Okay.
And Soul Level 1 Dark Souls 3 is Soul Level 1 Dark Souls 3 is some bullshit. We started getting one-shot by the Curse-Rotted Greatwood. The second boss of the game was one-shotting us.
Those little infected nuts.
Yeah, with his oozing nutsack. And now we're at a point in the game where we just did Champion Gundyr last Wednesday. And he was actually the easiest boss yet. Champion Gundyr was the easiest boss somehow.
Who are you playing with?
I'm playing with Tim, a college friend that originally got hooked on Dark Souls with.
Have you made John play through 3 yet?
No, he'll get to it eventually, but he's impossible to reason with and give recommendations of games to, because he's like, Hades.
Yeah, that's true. He gets... That was let's see, maybe my junior year of college with him was literally every day. He would play Spelunky for like 3 hours.
Oh my! How? Where did you guys have the time?
Just after class, man. I don't know.
No, yeah, I visited you guys. I visited you guys for that 1 week, and I was thoroughly unimpressed with the amount of work you did.
Yeah, I mean,
although that Greek mythology class, oh, choice.
That was freshman year though, so. But yeah, yeah, I think roguelikes are just his thing. So.
Well, we can't show him Slay the Spire then, because that's a deck building roguelike, and it got some tendrils in me, and I played it every night for like a month. Yeah, it's a great game.
It is. I hope this helped you.
It really did, dude. Like, I would have never thought about saying, you're absolutely alone. And, talking is the best way to think, basically.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much I can get out of, writing a summary and then redrafting it down so it's not stupidly long. Because currently it's 16 pages, and I'm like 2/3 of the way through summarizing the story of the second game. After, my introduction and the summary of the first game. Because yeah, what?
I was gonna say, do you have like a timeline goal for
Dude, the timeline originally was end of December.
End of last December?
Last December, yeah. So, because I finished. So the hardest part about last summer was renovating the house. That ate a lot of my time. Yeah. So I had that original transcribed rant shoved to the side, and then we moved in, and I started working on it and expanding it. And then after I finished expanding and getting all my thoughts out there, I played the games, took some more notes, recorded all the footage, fucked around with the editing software I'm going to use, and then started writing, and I had a real good flow a couple of those nights. I'm probably going to stop the recording now. But yeah, I had real good flow. I was on top of it. I was slated to do it by the end of December. The holiday season got crazy.
Yeah. Kind
of ground to a halt on progress. Picked it up again in January with the idea of having it out for the 1-year anniversary of the sequel coming out, which would have been March 11th.
Yeah.
That didn't happen either.
Yeah.
And then, after getting let go, put it down for a while, new job, new hours. But I want to finish this. I don't want to leave a long-term project like that unfinished. I want to get it out there in some form.
Right.
Even if I only go through like 2 revisions or something.